Today we explore a tale of divine providence. How does a slave rise to rule an immense empire? Trapped in the dark of an Egyptian cell, a Hebrew captive named Joseph waits in absolute silence. Meanwhile, far above in the Golden Palace, the most powerful man on earth is paralyzed by nightmares. All the brilliant magicians and wise men of the court stand silent, failing to decode the terrifying vision. When human wisdom fails, a forgotten promise lifts a slave to the throne, altering ancient history. Deep beneath the burning sands of Egypt, damp and rusted iron shackles gnaw at the flesh of a prisoner. His name is Joseph, a man sold by his own flesh and blood, yet harboring a grand gift bestowed by the Almighty. Ancient records state the royal cupbearer and chief baker were cast into this very same dark and gloomy pit. Stripped of their luxurious palace garments, they found themselves trembling on the cold and unforgiving stone floor. One night, both of these disgraced officials experience vivid and troubling visions in their restless sleep. Morning light reveals their pale and terrified faces, prompting the Hebrew to ask why they look so miserable. They confess the disturbing dreams, lamenting that no wise man is present in this dungeon to decode them now. Joseph replies that interpretations belong solely to God, urging them to share the hidden details now. The cupbearer speaks of a vine with 3 branches, blossoming quickly and producing clusters of juicy grapes. He describes squeezing the fresh fruit into Pharaoh's ornate golden chalice and placing it into the king's hand. With firm certainty, Joseph declares that the 3 branches represent 3 days until a royal pardon. He foretells the cupbearer would be fully restored to his prestigious position serving the great ruler. However, the young captive makes one desperate plea. Remember me when things go well, and get me out of this prison. Encouraged by this, the chief baker shares his vision of 3 wicker baskets filled with baked goods sitting on his head. But hungry birds swoop down from the sky, devouring the royal pastries meant for the great monarch's lavish table. Joseph delivers a grim verdict, stating that within 3 days, the baker will face the ultimate judgment. Just as foretold, the 3rd day marks Pharaoh's grand birthday celebration, bringing a sudden end to the tense waiting. The cupbearer is reinstated to his former glory, while the unfortunate baker meets a tragic end. Surrounded by the luxury of the palace, the cupbearer completely forgets the young Hebrew slave.
We are truly blessed by his generosity.
Days turn into agonizing months as the heavy iron doors remain firmly shut against the innocent man. Imagine sitting in absolute darkness for 2 whole years, holding on to a promise that seems to have vanished. Most men would surrender to crushing despair, letting the damp walls consume their broken and weary spirits. Scholars suggest that this severe isolation was the divine crucible required to forge a true leader. His faith never wavers, shining like a solitary ember waiting for the moment to ignite a massive fire. The painful delay is not a denial from heaven, but a preparation for an incredible destiny. Time moves relentlessly forward, setting the stage for an event that will shake the foundations of the world. The silence of the dungeon is about to be shattered by a crisis at the peak of human authority. Abandoned in darkness after saving a friend, would you keep your faith or let bitterness consume your soul? 2 full years pass, bringing us to a fateful night that will forever alter the Egyptian empire. The most powerful man on earth, worshipped as a living god, tosses and turns in a sudden state of sheer panic and dread. A haunting vision invades Pharaoh's mind as he stands upon the muddy banks of the sacred and giving river. Suddenly, 7 sleek and incredibly fat cows emerge from the water, grazing among the tall reeds. But then, a truly horrifying sight follows, as 7 gaunt and skeletal cows crawl from the riverbank. Driven by a ravenous and unnatural hunger, the starving beasts completely devour the healthy cows. Pharaoh jolts awake, his heart pounding violently against his chest, bathed in a cold sweat of terror. He desperately tries to shake off the horrific imagery, falling back into a restless slumber. Yet the torment continues as a second dream strikes, showing 7 beautiful heads of grain on one stalk. Immediately, 7 withered and thin heads of grain sprout up, scorched black by the unforgiving east wind. The blighted and ugly grain aggressively swallows up the healthy ears, leaving nothing but desolation. Morning breaks over the golden palace, but the brilliant sunlight cannot pierce the heavy gloom of the throne. The monarch's mind is deeply troubled, burdened by an overwhelming sense of inescapable global doom. He urgently summons all the elite magicians, renowned scholars, and wisest counselors of the land. The grand marble hall quickly fills with the educated minds of the era, holding scrolls of hidden knowledge. Pharaoh commands their absolute attention, describing the terrifying details of the nocturnal visions. A heavy and suffocating silence falls over the majestic room, as the wise men exchange frightened glances. Despite their lifetime of intense mystical studies, not a single expert can offer an explanation. Their complicated charts and sacred incantations prove completely useless against a message from heaven. The frustration of the king violently boils over, knowing that his immense wealth cannot buy the crucial answers. This unprecedented failure exposes the ultimate limits of human intellect against the divine. The entire royal court is gripped by a paralyzing fear, sensing that a monumental crisis is approaching. It is in this exact moment of sheer desperation that the royal cupbearer suddenly feels crushing guilt. The memory of the forgotten Hebrew slave rushes back into his mind, striking him like a lightning bolt. Trembling before the furious monarch, the cupbearer steps forward and nervously confesses his shortcomings. He recounts the astonishing events in the dungeon, praising the remarkable accuracy of the slave. Grasping at any shred of hope, Pharaoh issues an immediate command to bring this mysterious man forth. The heavy iron doors of the dark prison are finally thrown wide open, ending a long chapter of suffering. Guards rush into the damp cell, abruptly dragging Joseph from the squalor he has endured for so many long years. They strip away his filthy rags, aggressively shaving his thick beard and hair to meet strict royal standards. Washed and clothed in pristine white linen, the former slave is transformed to stand before the ultimate ruler. The massive golden doors swing open, revealing a breathtaking grand hall filled with statues and bright light. Joseph walks down the polished corridor, his posture remaining incredibly calm and confident throughout. He stops before the golden throne, looking directly into the anxious eyes of the most powerful man on earth. Pharaoh leans forward heavily, stating that no one in his vast empire can interpret his recurring nightmares. He tests the young man, mentioning the rumors of his extraordinary ability to decode secrets. Without a single hint of arrogance or fear, Joseph firmly declares that the power does not reside in him. He boldly proclaims that God alone will provide the anxious king with a perfectly accurate explanation. This fearless statement stuns the silent court, directly challenging the deeply ingrained beliefs of the elite. Pharaoh vividly recounts the terrifying details of the ravenous cows and the scorched grain devouring the crops. Listening intently, Joseph receives divine revelation, unlocking the hidden meaning behind the symbols. He reveals that both dreams carry the exact same urgent message: firmly established, and quickly approaching.
Famine.
The 7 fat cows and the 7 plump heads of grain represent 7 consecutive years of abundance. The Nile will overflow perfectly, bringing unprecedented wealth and a massive surplus of food to the nation. However, this era of immense prosperity will be followed by 7 years of a brutal famine. The devastating drought will be so catastrophic that it will erase the memory of the golden years. The skeletal beasts and withered grain symbolize a relentless hunger that will mercilessly ravage the land. A collective gasp echoes through the massive hall as the terrifying reality of starvation settles. The looming disaster threatens to completely destroy the mighty empire and wipe out countless innocent lives. Yet the young Hebrew does not simply deliver a message of pure doom. He pivots to a brilliant solution. He is no longer just interpreting a dream. He is actively stepping into the role of a grand strategist. Faced with disaster, does a leader merely warn the people of the end, or actively provide a vital cure? He advises Pharaoh to find a highly discerning and exceptionally wise man to manage the global crisis. A massive and organized operation must be launched to collect a fifth of the harvest in the abundant years. Huge reserves of grain must be heavily guarded in the royal cities, creating a vital lifeline for the dark times. This massive stockpile will serve as the ultimate salvation, preventing the great nation from collapsing into ruin. The brilliant and incredibly logical proposal leaves the monarch and his advisors in a state of awe. They realize that this intricate economic strategy is far too advanced to come from a simple foreign slave. Pharaoh looks around the room, asking his silent officials if anyone else possesses the spirit of God like this man. Recognizing the undeniable divine wisdom, the king makes a rapid and shocking political decision. He looks directly at Joseph, declaring that since God has revealed this truth, no one is wiser or more capable than him. In a stunning turn of events, Pharaoh officially places the prisoner in charge of his entire royal household and land. Stepping down from his majestic throne, the king removes his heavy, solid gold signet ring from his own royal finger. He gently slides the ultimate symbol of authority onto the hand of the man who was locked in chains hours ago. Servants quickly drape a magnificent robe of fine linen over his shoulders, finalizing the transformation. A massive gold chain is placed around his neck, officially marking his new status as the Grand Vizier of the Empire. He is granted the second highest chariot, while royal guards run ahead, shouting for the stunned public to bow down. At 30 years old, the young Hebrew slave assumes total command over the mighty Egyptian nation. He leaves the royal presence and immediately begins traveling throughout the fertile Egyptian lands. Exactly as he predicted, the rich earth produces massive amounts of food for 7 wondrous and full years. Joseph quickly gathers the massive surplus, storing the precious grain like the endless sands of the ocean. Massive brick silos are constructed in every city to safely hold the overflowing imperial wealth. He stops keeping exact records because the staggering volume of wheat defies human measurement. But the golden era suddenly ends, giving way to the devastating arrival of the brutal drought. The terrible starvation spreads beyond the borders, striking the surrounding nations with brutal and deadly force. When the desperate citizens of Egypt cry out for bread, the king directs them to the mighty Grand Vizier. Joseph opens the massive storehouses, selling vital grain to a nation on the absolute brink of ruin. Soon, desperate foreigners from distant lands begin flocking to the Egyptian capital for vital food. Because the horrific drought has ravaged the known world, Egypt stands as the sole shining beacon of global hope. From a forgotten dungeon cell to the absolute pinnacle of global power and immense material wealth. Joseph now controls the lifeblood of the ancient world, holding the only key to their ultimate survival. But among the countless desperate faces at the royal gates, a nomad group approaches from the land of Canaan. The very same brothers who callously tossed him into a pit are now begging for royal mercy and bread. Will the powerful vizier unleash his awaited vengeance, or will he choose the noble and righteous path of grace? Joseph's amazing ascent from a dark prison cell to Grand Vizier proves that true wisdom comes from heaven above. Did Pharaoh give him total power out of genuine faith? Or was it a desperate political move? If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel for epic historic tales.